The planned nuclear negotiations between Iran and the so-called European Troika, the United Kingdom, France, and Germany, scheduled to take place in Istanbul on Friday the 16th, is something to celebrate. These talks arrive at a moment of considerable geopolitical tension, global tension, but also paradoxically of cautious optimism. And we're witnessing the revival of a fraught diplomatic process that's laid dormant or fragmented since the collapse of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the JCPOA, following the United States' abrupt withdrawal in 2018 under Trump. The JCPOA, signed in 2015, was designed to limit Iran's nuclear capabilities in exchange for sanctions relief, and it imposed strict limits on uranium enrichment, capped stockpile qualities, and allowed intrusive inspections by the International Atomic Energy Agency. This was not disarmament but constraint, calibrated delicately between mistrust and pragmatism. And Trump's departure from the deal in 2018 shattered this balance and reintroduced the logic of brinkmanship. In the intervening years, Iran has dramatically increased its enrichment activities, now reaching levels of 60% purity, still below weapons grade but far above the JCPOA's cap of 3.67%. Simultaneously, Tehran insists that its nuclear ambitions remain peaceful, invoking a fatwa by the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei forbidding the development of nuclear weapons. Washington, however, especially under Trump's resumed presidency, is unconvinced and has threatened military consequences if diplomacy fails. Now, in Istanbul, which is to be the host of this new political theatre, Turkey's selection is symbolically apt, a NATO country with regional ambitions, but also a bridge between East and West, quite literally over the Bosphorus. The negotiations will take place at the Deputy Foreign Minister level, led for Iran by Abbas Araghchi, a seasoned diplomat and veteran of JCPOA-era talks. The UK and France have confirmed attendance, though Berlin has yet to formally respond, and at the heart of the talks are three entangled priorities. The first one is sanctions relief. Iran wants meaningful economic incentives, including the unfreezing of assets and the reopening of oil markets, and the complexity of the sanctions regime requires painstaking technological negotiation as many layers of punitive measures are tied to specific nuclear benchmarks. The United States and the E3, secondly, demand a return to the JCPOA limits, and Iran argues that enrichment is lawful under the Non-Proliferation Treaty and essential for its civilian energy program. However, the technical proximity to weapons-grade levels heightens mistrust. And Iran seeks, thirdly, a firm commitment that, unlike the last time, the agreement will not be unilaterally shredded. And the US, for its part, insists on transparent verification and snapback mechanisms, which France has hinted may be reactivated if European security is compromised. Although the E3 are leading this round, the American shadow looms large, and Trump's erratic diplomacy has returned, maximalist in tone, transactional in instinct, and though indirect talks have begun and continue now through Oman, Trump's threats of military reprisal undermine trust, and there's a theatrical quality to all this diplomacy, seeking a new deal that may resemble the old one, but with his new signature emblazoned upon it. We cannot ignore Israel. Tel Aviv continues to perceive Iran as an existential threat and is lobbying fiercely against any leniency. And Benjamin Netanyahu's cartoon bomb of the UN at the UN in 2012 may be infamous, but it encapsulates Israel's red line. Any agreement that restores enrichment rights to Iran, even if capped, is bound to provoke reaction in Jerusalem. So, is a deal likely? Possibly, but with caveats. The willingness of Iran and the US to hold direct and indirect talks, the progress of technical discussions in Oman, and the symbolic return to structured dialogue with the E3 all suggest momentum. Yet the clock is ticking, and the snap-back sanctions clause of the JCPOA expires in October. If no framework is agreed before then, diplomatic leverage may dissipate, replaced once again by coercion and regional instability. So the Istanbul talks represent a tentative, fragile, but essential return to diplomacy, and if the talks succeed, we may see a revival of the principles of the JCPOA, albeit under a new name and with modified guarantees. If they fail, we risk spiralling back into confrontation, with Iran continuing its enrichment, the West increasing sanctions, and the spectre of war once again looming over the Gulf. I hope, however cautiously, that pragmatism prevails over posturing, and that diplomacy, often dismissed in favour of all this theatre, proves itself once more to be a serious path to peace.